Day number 5. We're getting into the number one area that people misunderstand about NLP. This is NLP Basics. At the end of this lesson, you will get it, but a whole bunch of people don't. Okay. How do we get our information? Some of you are saying the internet. Okay, wise ass, that's not what I was talking about. We get our information, we as human beings get our information through our senses. Our eyes, our ears, our noses, okay? Our sense of touch. We get our information through our 5 senses. Seeing, hearing, feeling, smelling, and tasting, okay? Those 5 senses create our experiences. There should be no arguments there. If you go into a fine restaurant and you did not have a good sense of taste or smell, you probably wouldn't enjoy the evening very much. If you went into a fine restaurant and you had a cold, okay, and you're taking all kinds of medicines and your nose is blocked and you can't smell the delicious aromas of the food and you can't taste the delicious aromas, you're going to say something like, I don't like this restaurant. On the other hand, if you go in and you get to savor the aromas coming off the soups and you can, let the wine swirl around inside your mouth and delicately enjoy every taste and savor it in all corners, you're going to say this was an exquisite restaurant. The difference is how open your sensory channels are. Now, in our society, except for people who are chefs or dining in a fancy restaurant, we aren't guided by our sense of smell very often, or our sense of taste. So the senses that we talk about the most are seeing, visual, hearing, auditory, or feeling, which is known as kinesthetic. Now, ideally, in our experiences, we would be equally balanced between all 3. My teacher, Dave Dobson, used to use the example of a stool. The stool that he was talking about had 3 legs in his imagination. The 3 legs represented seeing, visual, hearing, auditory, or feeling, kinesthetic. If we were completely balanced individuals, then all of these would be equal. But if the truth be told, we're not entirely balanced. We tend to favor one system more than others. Now, this is where one of the principal misunderstandings of NLP came in. People decided that they were one system. I'm visual. I'm auditory. Oh, I'm so kinesthetic. And they decided that they were one and not the other. And so when researchers would start interviewing people to see whether the NLP rapport matching things that we're going to be talking about worked, they would decide, oh, this person is visual. But then the person who was visual would exhibit some behaviors of someone who was auditory, and they go, see, NLP doesn't work. No, the only thing that doesn't work is your understanding of NLP. Remember, we should all be balanced. That would be the ideal. But depending on culture and where we are, we've developed one sense more than others. Culturally, nationally, racially, before you start writing letters and saying that I'm a racist, it's just, I'm not specifying anything. we have specified or we have preferred systems, okay? My preferred system is auditory, okay? I'm constantly talking to myself. You don't hear it, but it's going on right now. Shut up in there. Okay, so I'm primarily auditory, okay? That doesn't mean that I'm never using visual or kinesthetic feeling. It means that my preferred system is auditory. In the example of the stools, is my auditory leg would be longer than the other two, okay? My next preferred system is my visual system, and my least preferred system is my kinesthetic system. So if we wrote those in orders, I would be A for auditory, V for visual, K for kinesthetic. You may be the same way. We're going to talk about how to discover this. Or you may be different. One is not better than the other. Well, I'm an auditory. I'm a visual. I'm kinesthetic. Who cares? The key that is important is determining what the individual is and having and matching them, okay? Not having everybody match you. In fact, one of the biggest causes of incongruity the founders of NLP discovered is that when you brought people from two systems that had different primary systems and had them talk to one another, that did not work. They didn't get along. So, for example, the husband, now pay attention to the verbs that I'm going to use, the predicates that I'm going to use. The husband would come home and say something like, "Boy, sounds like a real racket in this house. The kids are screaming all of the time. I hear the food is boiling over on the stove. I can barely hear myself think because the kids' iPods are blaring in the background. And, you know, can you get them to turn the damn sound down on the Xbox?" So the husband comes home and does everything, and every single verb that I used there was auditory, which is, of course, easy for me because I'm Mr. Auditory, so I didn't have to work very hard. Now this is where I earn my money. By the way, these videos are free, so I'm not really earning my money with them unless you go over on the side and buy something. Hint, hint. That was a subtle NLP hint. Okay. Now the wife says, "Well, just look at you walking in the door with that angry look on your face. You look so mad. I don't really want to look at you when, you know, you don't notice how beautiful the house looks. I just had it painted today. And you come in and you look like just, you know, someone who is just a raging lunatic. You know, I don't want to look at you." And she turns and walks off. There you had someone who was primarily visual responding to someone who is primarily auditory. Do they get along? Yeah, like oil and water. Unless they learn to bridge that gap, they're probably headed for divorce court. Do they still have that on court TV? They used to when I was a kid. And I never used to understand what they were talking about. It's like, you know, it's that internal auditory going off. So when you see someone who is one system, how can you tell what they are? Number one, listen to the verbs that they are using. Okay? Are they using auditory predicates? I hear you. That rings a bell. that sounds right. I like what you're saying. Tell me more. All of those were auditory predicates. Or do they use visual predicates and say things like, it appears to me, picture this, it looks lovely. Those are all visual predicates. Or are they using kinesthetic predicates? It's rough. It grabs me the wrong way. It hurts. It's a pain. Those are all kinesthetic, feeling. Pay attention to what people are doing. Notice what kind of verbs they are using and start filing this away, because we're going to use it for the future. But remember, and this is the key point, everybody is not just one system. People are more than one system. If you insist that people are just one system, you're going to be as bad as those researchers who've never really tried NLP and said it doesn't work. You've got to be flexible. And if you are, you're going to master NLP. 30 Days to Communications Excellence continues tomorrow. Give me your feedback on these, by the way. Post a comment. It won't appear right away because we've got to keep those spammers out of here. Evil spammers, die. But I do want to hear what you think. See you tomorrow. Bye.